Hello and welcome to the Emerald Doorway podcast. Today concludes our second part of our podcast with Dr. Christie Smirl and Michael Magickman. On our last podcast, we were talking about many things. Christie discussed to us growing up with various dark visions of Kali Ma, growing with them and coming to terms with them, coming to work as a nurse practitioner with those on the verge of death, and using her visions as a means of not scaring them but comforting them in their journey from this world to the next. We also discussed Ayurvedic medicine and diet, the importance of diet. One of the last things we were discussing was the 10 emanations of the goddess Kali Ma, as various wisdom goddesses in her grimoire, Dashamaha Vidyagita. Today we will pick up where we left off. Thanks for joining us. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you are listening to us on Apple, please give us 4 stars. Thanks for joining us. This is the Emerald Doorway podcast.
Saraswati Devye Namaha. We always have to remember that when we work with types of the mother, forms of the mother, we need to have a clear teacher. I've had many people approach me over the years and they'll say, I'm really interested in working with Kali Ma, but I worked with her like 10 years ago and everything went to hell and back and it was terrible. And I'll say, let me ask you something. Do you know who Ganesha is? And if they're not clear about Ganesha, I'll say, that's probably why you had such difficulty working with the mother, because Ganesha always guards her gate. And if you can't prostrate and give honors to Ganesha, Ganesha's instructions are to bash you about.
Wow. I
One of
didn't
the
know that.
stories is that Parvati, the pure form, the unangry form of Kali Ma, wanted a son, and so she collected clay and things from her bath, and she made this beautiful son and breathed life into her son. And she said, please, all these yahoos are at my door all the time. They don't respect my mysteries. Of course, I'm paraphrasing here. They don't respect my mysteries and they don't respect my power. And they're always just barging in my door all the time. So Ganesha, you my most beloved son, guard my door. And one time Shiva came back, and Shiva did not know about Ganesha yet, because Parvati had created Ganesha while Shiva was away. And so Shiva came back home and said, kid, get out from in front of my door. I want to go inside. And Ganesha said, no, I will fight you to my death. And that's exactly what he did. He ended up in this huge battle. He fought Shiva and he got decapitated. And so, of course, Parvati, Kali Ma, was furious and said, you better find my boy a head. So Ganesha is one of the first of lycanthropy and shapeshifting because he has the head of elephant.
Elephant.
Very
Yeah,
wise.
that was actually, yeah, I realized that the opening of the book included an invocation to Ganesha, and
Yeah.
I wasn't clear why, but now that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I
Wise.
noticed that also.
When I
Yeah.
started the program, I had already connected with Ganesha, but my first 1 month lesson, sit with Ganesha first. Before we even talk about the mother, sit with Ganesha for a full month and do that sadhana.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And Ganesha was my first contact with the Hindu pantheon.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
Oh, I was going to a Vedic temple in this nearby area. I hadn't quite decided what all of this was about. And I was in the gift shop one time with my daughter. My daughter wanted to go get some, spiritual doodads of some sort. And I went around the corner and I saw this beautiful, like 4 foot tall carving of an elephant. It had like serpents coming over its head. And I was like, oh, wow. And all my hair stood up. And I felt this current run through me. And I was like, okay, well, this is important because I know this feeling. So I asked the lady in the gift shop, I said, what is that? And she said, you mean, who is that? I was like, okay, I'll take that. Who is that? So she told me some things about Ganesha, and I said, can I buy him and take him home right now? So I put him on my altar, and I spent a very unusual amount of time with Ganesha at the altar. And at this point, I didn't really know how to do a formal sadhana. I didn't know. I just, put my tea up there, put my rock up there, put a candle up there, cry a little bit, write some notes. I didn't have a formal praxis then. And I still didn't even really understand who Ganesha was still. And one night I was in a parking lot. It was, I don't know, probably 1 in the morning. I was at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. And one of the people there who was assisting me went to his car and gave me this book. And it was a Ganesha book. And I was like, I know who this Ganesha is. And then, eventually I started studying Ayurveda. And of course, my teacher there was very forthcoming who Ganesha was. And over the years, that was really my only understanding in the Hindu pantheon until I started learning more.
That was your gateway, your introduction basically through Ganesh.
Ganesha, Ganesha. My ever, ever dear divine guardian.
Speaking of lycanthropes, I also another thing I wanted to talk to you about was the concept of yoginis, which was something I learned about actually uh, from a recent podcast that I did with Phil Hine. Are you familiar with Phil Hine? Yeah.
I don't know him personally, but my compliments to the writings that I have gotten a hold of. One of the writings I got a hold of, I had a friend who sent the book my direction, who was on yoginis and possession. I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, I want to read that book.
Yeah, I,
And
I I believe that like one of the newer books that he's coming out with is just it's strictly about yoginis and possession.
yeah,
I didn't know if it had come out yet or not, but yeah. So I had never heard of the concept until I read his book, which was kind of it was kind of a treatment of the left-hand path, both in Western parts of the world and in India, and he talked about yoginis as these sort of these female spirits that would come into graveyards, and some of them would have animal heads.
yeah,
And I know that you've written about them as being early, like you know. Eastern manifestations of lycanthropes because a certain amount of them have animal-shaped heads and they ride on animal beasts and they're supposed to sort of guide the student through a kind of physical lycanthropy.
yeah, like a shamanic journey. The yoginis are phenomenal. I just recently finished an extended sadhana to them. Many years ago, I started studying the 64 yoginis. One of my early associates guided me that way. And so I bought like this oracle deck and it had a book. And, each day you went through a different yogini because there's 64
Oh
and you
wow.
certain like little pattern and you do their sadhana and you contemplate their form. And, a lot of them, like you said, they have the vahana or the vehicles of an animal or they have animal heads. And it's interesting because the ones with different animal heads, oftentimes the sadhana is, let's say it's a frog-headed yogini.
Mhm.
The sadhana may be like jumping around, like a frog, really identifying with the core nature of frog movement, or if it's an eagle head, spending your sadhana time and your post sadhana time, looking at the world around you like a bird, like from the sky, up from above, and it really does shift your perception of reality. But these yoginis, there's many, many beautiful temples in India that are usually a bit remote and harder to get to, and they have these huge circular outdoor arenas where the yoginis used to worship. And inside these circular temples, there are alcoves, and usually there's 64 alcoves with 64 forms of the goddess. They're not always the same. There's multiple sets of 64, or, depending on the region, etc., it shifts and changes in name and form. And in the center is usually a Shiva or a Ganesha. And if people study the 64 yoginis or yoginis without proper respect, it can be trouble. It can
Yeah.
really be trouble. Um, some people consider them more like, spirit nature, or, spirit, excuse me, nature spirits, or, minor deities, or lesser powerful, but they're not. They're a complete power in and of themselves.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of interest in my spiritual name, which is Kalavati. The term Kalavati is also associated with the 64 yoginis or the 64 arts, whether they be kalas or whether they be the Kama Sutra. There's always that 64 delineation in there. So for myself, they've just been phenomenal to work with, phenomenal to work with.
You've had some personal success working with them and some.
I've had only success working with them. I have found them to be very gracious, very loving, very kind, very giving, very attentive, but I also show and pay them the same respect.
Mhm.
Sarve Jana Sukhino Santu Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Badrani Ishantu Sarve Jana Sukhino Santu Sarve Santu Niramaya.
Yeah, I feel like they almost have a somewhat of a negative connotation if you read certain people or if you go around, certain corners.
I have collected a few texts, or I should say, I've been given the honor to browse through other people's esoteric texts and libraries. And I have seen some writings, that talk about like the matrikas and forms of the mothers, like, oh, ferocious and scary and evil and, marginalized and this and this and this. I say, yeah, if you're not their friend,
Yeah.
you know, if they're good at them. They're like your back. They're just tremendously beneficial. But if the person doesn't know the proper sadhanas, they might get smashed about.
Yeah.
Really, they might get smashed about.
So you got to know what you're doing, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And, ultimately, all of these forms of the mother, they want one thing. The mother wants only one thing, liberation. And sometimes liberation comes at a hard price to pay and
Absolutely.
can be disturbing, or as I often say, it can be quite alarming to surrender and allow the real work to be done. And that's why a lot of times the yoginis, the matrikas, Kali Ma herself are seen as, you know, frightening or maybe hostile. And it is common for people to have this experience. But I always just say, maybe you weren't ready to study them. And there is a lot to be said about doing formal study and not disturbing the spirits. Going back to one of the articles that I read on, or wrote on possession that you received, the one of the major causes of exogenous spirit attack is disrespect. I like to think about different forms of the divinity in a interesting way just to keep things in perspective. Imagine for a moment, let's say we're talking about Kali Ma herself, and we want to work with her and we want to get to know her. All right, we'll put that aside. Imagine if there's this person in the world that you wanted to date, maybe even marry, and you're like, "Hi, I really like you. I want to get to know you." And they're like this, "Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Good to meet ya. Mind your manners." And then
Yeah.
just go knocking on their door at 4 in the morning with your hair sideways, your teeth aren't brushed, your nails are dirty, and you're like this, "What's up? I want to get to know you." She's gonna be like, "Damn, get the hell out of
Yeah.
here," right? Like, you didn't give honors to my son. You're not giving me proper respect. You're not giving proper resonance or, reverence. And some people just don't know their P's and Q's about approaching divinity. And they think that they can do it in a very blasé kind of casual way. And then their life goes to hell in a handbasket. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like hitting on somebody enough times and just getting creepy. They might even call the cops,
Yeah.
you know? And so
Yeah.
when we're courting the divine, like, it's smart to know, like, what days are best for you to get together.
Hmm.
Oh, you're calling off Tuesdays and Saturdays. Got it. What time is best for your schedule? Oh, you're calling off midnight. Got it. What kind of flowers are your favorite? Do you like, daisies? No, hibiscus, that's your favorite? Got it. Marigolds? Got it. What's your favorite food offerings? Like, what do you like to be presented with? And so we get to know um, the generally accepted standards, and then we develop our own special relationship. We start putting in our own secret sauce and our own special offerings, and that's when the relationship gets really, really
Yeah.
special. And there's
Personal, yes.
that personal gnosis, those sparks start going off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really, really beautiful analogy, or a funny analogy. It's just
Yeah.
the kind of unwanted guest. And yeah, I'm sure in the beginning, you know, many people have been there. Maybe we've all been there in the beginning. Who knows?
We all have been. I often say we were all kindergartners at one point.
Yeah.
Teachers didn't make fun of us because we didn't know how to tie our shoes. We eventually learned how to do all the different things, and the divine is usually very patient with us.
Do you feel like the divine is also forgiving?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Like say if you've been intrusive or rude in the past, you can come back and with the right offering and say, I'm sorry, and start over.
100%. In the different lineages I've learned, we have a special mantra that we do just for forgiveness. I remember the first time I read it, the mantra essentially says, forgive me because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know your mantra. I don't know your sadhana. I don't even know how to honor you. I'm just here and please accept what I've given. I don't know any better still. And when I first read that mantra, I thought, all right, all right. The divine is absolutely forgiving and gracious and loving, unless we're not willing to do the work.
Yeah.
If we're really just being ding-dongs and yahoos, once we know better, the divine will punish
Yeah.
because we know better.
Yeah.
In
Absolutely.
Ayurveda, they call it a conscious sin. The person knew better. And that's what creates so much karma.
त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओर्वारुकमिव बन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीया ममृतात् त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओर्वारुकमिव बन्धनात्.
When we don't know better, a lot of times the powers around us will, be gracious. It's like I often say in class, don't kick a kindergartner for not knowing how to tie their shoes. Be kind to them and show them how to tie their shoes. But, when we're 30, 40, 50 years old and we know better and we've been taught proper or at least decency in ritual etiquette, and then if we choose not to exercise respect and reverence when we approach the divine, then we just may get body checked.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be a good book for someone wants to write. Just various ways to not get body checked in ritual.
And when we talk about exogenous spirit possession, that is one of the primary causes of exogenous spiritual possession is disrespecting the spirits. And so what they say in the Ayurvedic texts is that one of the causes for insanity or possession is not necessarily that the spirit has taken over the steering wheel of the body, but that the spirit will disturb the central channel, the sushumna. And so they'll essentially cause peacefulness to go away. And then all you're left with is rajas and tamas, or upward and downward motion, and you're not able to find your center after that.
Oh, wow.
But some spirits do indwell and cause all sorts of
Chaos, basically. It's chaos in your life. Well, yeah, I mean that we've covered some incredible ground tonight. Really, really amazing stuff. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about your music. I guess to sort of wrap things up. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of everything I've heard, the Cali Dub project, and also you make solo music as well, right?
Yeah.
I my wife had actually shown me because she had just added you on Instagram and she's become a fan of yours, and she showed me a post that you'd made about how you got involved with music as a form of healing. And I wanted to know if you wanted to talk about that a little bit and maybe about different types of music that you use for healing and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So when I first started in the formal yoga training, I had gone to this workshop and I didn't know what to expect. And it was supposed to be the sound healing. I was like, ooh, that might be nice to add to my, understanding, or even be able to offer something like that to my clients if it's even real. Maybe it's snake oil. I'm always a skeptic first. And so I was like, all right. So I took my daughter and we went to this crystal bowl and gong bath. And I was like, that's so Southern California. I went and, I laid down and I looked around. There's all these crystal bowls and gongs, and I tried to relax, and the bowls started going. The sound started like just washing over my body, and I felt an immediate hostility rise out of me. I wanted to get up and smash this woman's crystal bowls. I
Wow.
wanted the music to stop immediately. Um, Not that it was unpleasant, and not that it was off key or off-putting, but my body did not want to go through the correction with the sound. So eventually I was like, well, I'm not going to make a jerk out of myself, get up and take my daughter and leave this,
Yeah.
yoga workshop or this sound-based healing. And so I, started relaxing into it a little bit. One thing led to another. When I left that sound healing event or small gathering, I did not feel the same. Something had distinctly shifted in me to the point where I was like, I need a set of these bowls for myself at home. Like I
Yeah.
don't know what kind of witchcraft or, voodoo this was, but something is dramatically different. And so I bought a set of crystal bowls and I would, practice them with my daughter. And I started buying some books and learning more about like which chakra responds to which note and how do you do the proper harmonics and, thirds and fifths rather than playing unsuspecting haunted house music and agitating the person's system instead. And I started offering classes at the yoga studio I was at, and people absolutely loved it. So I started adding in more things like rain sticks and thunder cans and small little accoutrements like that. And I've been doing sound healings like that for a long time. I started doing it at the hospital.
Oh,
So
okay.
they were allowing me to do it in the old convent. The hospital I worked at was a Catholic hospital. And so they had this beautiful place in the old Catholic convent church. And I would do the sound baths. And then I started bringing them like during my shift and doing it for some of my patients and things like that. And people just have always responded tremendously. And I still do that each week. I love the bowls. Then I
Yeah.
started getting
They're very
involved.
helpful. Yes.
They are. Then I started getting involved in music in the form of bhakti. So at one point, I had bought a harmonium. I was teaching this class at the university, and I told all the students, I said, "Bring it's show and tell day. Somebody bring something fun and exciting that we haven't learned about." And so this gentleman, Dario, he brought his harmonium. And he said, everybody lay down and I'll play the harmonium and I'll sing you a song. I think it was a Hanuman song. And the minute he started playing it, I just started weeping and weeping and weeping. And it brought back, whether we want to say memories, activated something. There's so many different ways we could describe it. But I shortly after, went and got a harmonium, started learning from a teacher how to play the harmonium. I still play like a second grader, but that's all right. Um,
I have one too. I love those.
it became less about the harmonium and more about the mantras.
Hmm.
And at the same time, I was in Ayurvedic training, so I was learning all these different mantras that we would use in clinic on our clients. So the mantras became not a thing of devotion necessarily, but a method of healing. Like, for instance, one of the songs I'll commonly play on the harmonium, and I've recorded the track for it, is the Mahamrityunjaya mantra, the death defying or the death victorious mantra that is to Shiva. And I recorded that purely so that the students at the university could learn it better. Because when I was in Ayurvedic training, we would set the client out on a table, we'd set up the treatment. Usually it was a pain treatment and there's hot oil involved and things like that. And then my teacher would say, okay, are you ready? We're going to start chanting. And so we would begin all of these chant recitations over the client, which was part of their healing process. Or other mantras are used for the Shirodhara and the oil treatment over the head. Now, when I first started learning these mantras, I hated them because they scared me. Because as a child, I was exposed to chanting only in deadly ritual times. Like, it was never good if somebody was chanting. Never a good time. And so the first time I heard my Ayurvedic teacher begin chanting, I was like, no, I don't like it. I don't want to hear this because it makes me think something is wrong. And so part of our training was we were asked to recite these mantras 108 times every single day up until a certain time because we were going to need to use them in clinic. Well, I got more and more mantras under my belt. And at a certain point, I just couldn't help but to share them and record them. I had a woman who I was in a band with a Kashavani, and she was, very lovely singing, soft, sweet singing. And so that was a beautiful experience. It could be deeply healing. But for me, it was more about my personal relationship with these mantras. And there's been times where I just wake up and I say, that's it. Set up the recording equipment. I have what I would call a transmission. And then I would just start chanting and sharing these songs, not only for the divine, but of the divine, so other people could hear the effects and maybe glean some of the healing effects of these mantras. Because almost every mantra has a healing effect.
Oh, yeah.
Well, at least the
Absolutely.
mantras I use. I'm sure there's mantras out there that are, there's definitely ones out there that are not healing. I usually stay in the upper stages or
Okay.
the higher levels of mantras.
Right.
My rule of thumb is if the book, the reading, the sadhana, the practice, the magical operation, the mantra, if it doesn't bring me closer to self-realization or help heal somebody, I have no business doing it. It's
So
just
basically the opposite would be like hex mantras. Is that what we're implying?
correct.
Like, yeah.
Correct. And we just don't even really need a mantra to hex somebody.
Yeah.
You can hex them a lot easier than spit rhymes.
Yeah, that's true.
Huh.
Well, yeah, the music is fascinating. The Cali Dub project is really really interesting. It's very psychedelic and very like very very cool. The music videos I've seen and the kind of trippy colors and is that's a project with you and one other person or
Yes, Surya and I, my partner, We started making music together a few years ago, and he's really the mastermind behind the majority of the music. I might pick up a bass guitar and thump along, or, strike the gong and have a simple musical component of it. But he really does all of the complexities of the music. And, again, we both have a very deep common mission, and one of that is to sing the holy names. Um,
Nice.
it has brought us both tremendous degrees of liberation, and I would say it's one of our compulsions. It just is what comes out of us. If you're around
Yeah.
us for a day, you're probably going to hear chanting, singing, praying. Um, we have a new project we're coming out with, and there's been a lot of different projects. We call it the Kali Dub Project, but there's like drum and bass and electronic music, and then there's some, darker ambient music, and then there's some more psychedelic music, and we just keep ever-changing forms of what's inspiring us. But probably next week we'll be releasing our newest project that is going to be called Easy Journey to Other Planets, which is actually a book from Prabhupada. Prabhupada is Surya's spiritual master teacher. And he talks in this book about, a lot of information about the anti-material world and antimatter and how to travel to other planets. So this new collection of music we're going to put out, I think it's about 108 minutes long, and it's all essentially electronic
Mhm.
and ambient with some spoken word mixed in.
So
And
soundscapes. Yeah.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to sharing it with everybody.
Sounds great. Do you guys do performances and stuff like that?
We do. If you can get me out of the house, I'm pretty much a recluse.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't know it if you were here because I have people over all the time. But we do live performances. Our last one was at the university for Diwali. They have a big gathering of all the students, and we sing mantras to Ganesha and different things like that. And then we've done, local gigs around here as well.
Sounds great. Well, yeah, no, I love it. I'm a big fan of the music, the art, the writings, everything. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a huge pleasure to have you here tonight, Christy. Michael, do you have anything else that you wanted to ask?
No, it's been great, actually. It's been great. She's touched on a lot of things that I was going to ask questions about, and been an excellent guest and speaker. I really thank you for enlightening us a little bit, on the different forms of the goddess and kind of sweeping away some of the misconceptions because a lot of people have heard of Kali but don't know very much. They just see maybe a watercolor or something like that in a book. Uh,
They see
and
me in
it's
the
so
sun.
easy for people to think of yoga as just that thing they offer at the YMCA on the weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they think of Kali as this demon and they think of yoga as stretching. And you've offered some profound insights that go so much deeper than that.
It both yoga and Kali for me go hand in hand because if I'm not able to practice my yoga and Ayurveda correctly, my mind goes astray. And Kali Ma always says, I'm never absent. I'm only not there when you're absent-minded. And without the science of yoga, we can tend to quickly lose ownership and mastership over our entire system in this modern world. And that's what they want. They want you to be weak and confused and easy to control. Yoga
Exactly.
is really, for me, an ultimate form of anarchy
Yeah,
and self-regulation and self-mastery.
that's awesome. Well, is there anything that you wanted to say in closing?
I want to say thank you for having me on here, and thank you for letting me share one for more of the things that I hold very dear. And I look forward to listening to and understanding all the other guests that you have on.
Awesome. Yeah, we're a new show, but we're getting off the ground very, very quickly, and we've got a lot of great guests coming up, and there's a lot to look forward to, and hopefully we'll have you back sometime.
Absolutely, anytime.
Awesome.
Yes,
Well,
yes, thank you so much.
both of you guys have a great night. Have a great night, Christy. Have a great night, Michael.
Thank you. Have a
Okay.
wonderful evening.
Good night. Good night.
Thanks for listening to the Emerald Podcast. Thanks to Dr. Christie Smirl for joining us and for Michael Magickman for joining us again. On our next podcast, we will have part 1 and 2 of our interview with Kyle Flight, who will be discussing his new book, Beyond the Golden Omen. After that, we will be joined by Robert Taylor, and following him, we will be joined by Dr. Thomas Carlson. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for all of your support and listening to us and giving us good ratings on Apple and for subscribing on YouTube. The show has been a great success so far, and we can't wait to continue. Thanks for listening to the Emerald Doorway Podcast. Once you've entered the Emerald Doorway, there's no turning back. There's only one way to move, and that's forward.
The auspicious, powerful, supreme Godhead, Shri